King and two bishops, endgame challenge. I've never seen it in practical play. I've played 1,000 games of chess. Well, played more than 1,000. I've got 1,000 score sheets somewhere, and lots of other friendly games. Never seen it, I don't think. But Capablanca said, the great world champion from Cuba, Capablanca, said practice it. And it's not because it's going to come up and it's going to help you, but it's going to help you understand how to use two bishops together. And there are other things about this that are rather nice. So let's have a look at how we might go about this. Well, one bishop by itself doesn't make a fence. So there's one bishop, and it stops the king coming to this square, but the king can come through the gaps. So that's not going to help white any with a one bishop fence. But if we move our bishops so that they control two diagonals next to each other, they make a fence, and that's the easiest way to understand how to do this. We're going to drive the king into the corner, and then we're going to checkmate it. So king to d4, king to d2. This is a nice position to see in a two bishops ending. The king has to go backwards. It can't come to the side, has to go backwards, and then we can chase it with our own king. Here's our two bishops making a fence again, so we're driving the king back, and as I say, we're trying to drive it to a corner. I don't know if there's an official way of doing this, but I just if ever I have to do this, I'll sort of move. Well, if the king's going to voluntarily move back, we'll move the fence forward. If the I just sort of move the kings and bishops closer and closer to the edge. I hope you know enough to avoid stalemate by now. That's a bit annoying. We'll move the king out of the way, and if the king moves towards the bishops, it's actually moving towards the edge of the board, so it moves backwards. Here's just getting in the king's way. King comes forward, and the two bishops next to each other. This is a nice position to go for, because it drives the quick king back again. We'll chase it with the king a bit. Here again, with the bishops together, they control a lot of squares, and the king has to go back. And actually now, ta-da, has to go to the edge of the board, which is very important. So what I'm going to do is actually try and cut off the king from going north up the board. So I've taken away some of the dark squares north, and I've move the fence down a little bit. King to a4. I'm not sure I can do much with the bishops. Leave the fence in place, don't make a check, but move the king in. And now, if you see here, the king's just moved away from that light square a4, so we're going to cut it off, and the king is now being forced down the board. Again, we're going to take away the square that it just moved from down the board. Right, it's in the corner. Where's my checkmate? Well, the big mistake to make here, of course, is to move the bishop to cut off its last square. Always worry about if your opponent doesn't have any moves. And in fact, what we want to do is check the king into the corner. So not the way we've done it with other checkmates, but if you check the king, it's going to come out of the corner. Well, let's just lose a move. King comes forward as it has to, and now check. We drive it into the corner and checkmate. What could be easier? So that's sort of how to do it. I mean, there are little fiddles, but I'm sure you can work those out if you've done everything so far. Just one other thing I'll show you from the start position. We come forward with these moves. One other way of trying this, and it's not so easy because we're not making a fence. If you make a fence, you know the king can't get past it. And so instead of moving to b2 and making a fence, try moving it to a3, because it stops the king coming sideways. And of course, if the king comes into opposition, we can make this 3 in a line arrangement, which is rather nice. And if the king goes backwards, we'll move the king forwards. And again, if the king doesn't really want to go backwards again, but if it comes to the side, we can make our 3 in a row bishop sandwich and drive the king back. So that's not a bad technique. Now here we're going to checkmate this king. We'll send the bishop away, check, and checkmate. So there are other ways for black to defend there. So instead of coming, when the king comes to f4, maybe the king goes backwards to somewhere like d7. But of course, when the king does that, it's heading for a corner, and we can cut it off a little bit more. Where's the king going? Maybe here, and again bring the king up. But just a little technique that I've often seen used, and your opponent, if they're not careful, will be mated very quickly. So have a go at that. See how you get on. When you think you know how to do that against a computer or your one of your other members of the club, come and challenge us. See if you know how to do it in 1 minute.